What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Wonka, starring Timothée Chalamet from Paul King, the director of the Paddington films. Wonka is back. Timothée Chalamet back in our lives. The movie is a hit. It's probably going to be the biggest hit of the holiday season as well. And I think for good reason, because Wonka actually I think is pretty good and definitely exceeded my expectations. I did not think highly of this movie or the project of this movie going in. Going into the film, I thought this was kind of a waste of Timothée Chalamet's time. I've been a huge fan of Timothée Chalamet since 2017. Seeing how amazing he is in movies like Call Me By Your Name or Little Women, he is the preeminent actor of his generation right now. Has been compared a lot to the career trajectories of people before him, such as Leonardo DiCaprio. He is a special talent. He is also having a great year because he's incredibly famous, dating Kylie Jenner right now, about to be the star of Dune once again early next year. Like, everything's turning up Timmy right now. And it turns out that's continuing with Wonka. But going in, I just didn't think like a kind of completely unasked for franchise reboot retelling film, doing another Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie about young Wonka. I was like, really? Timothée Chalamet is going to do that? He's already got the franchise game going with Dune. I would have liked him to continue to do what he had been doing, which is working with auteurs, working with Luke Guadagnino and Greta Gerwig and Adam McKay. Nonetheless, he does Wonka, and it's actually a pretty solid use of his talents. Timmy, a song and dance man, but not an amazing singer. And Timmy singing in Wonka, I think is good enough. It's passable. It's solid. He's not an amazing singer. He's not going to sing on a musical on Broadway or anything. But he is a charismatic guy. He has a presence to him. And he still has like a precociousness to him. He has a youthful exuberance to him despite being almost 28 at this point. And it's actually a pretty good fit for this version of Wonka. It's funny because the Willy Wonka we get in the film Wonka is very different from the Willy Wonka we've been introduced to in the past, which is a very almost demented and like dark character at times, right? From Gene Wilder, of course, most famously. And yeah, despite all that, I think he's had to meet this movie on what it actually is, which is a Paul King movie. Paul King, if you've seen the Paddington films, he directed the first two. There's a third one on the way. Those Paddington films very much continue, the vibes continue from that with Wonka. And what is that? I mean, this is a great movie for kids, I think. It's a happy movie. It's a nice movie. It's, I think it's about like belief and finding joy and things of that nature. It is, not a movie that requires a lot of, I think, in-depth examination from like the critic brain. That being said, the movie actually does present like a lot of like themes that it definitely doesn't have the means to tackle. Like, there's a corrupt church involved in this. There is a villainous trio of chocolatiers called the Chocolate Cartel, and their never-ending greed is quite quickly criticized in the film, in direct conflict to Timothée Chalamet's Willy Wonka, who just kind of wants to bring his love of making confectionaries to the public and not price gouge them in the process. You have that. You have orphans. You have I think there's like a lot of like disparate like adult themes tackled in the movie that are just kind of there. You have corruption. You have the cartel bribing the chief of police with chocolate, almost playing off his Keegan-Michael Key's character, the police chief, playing off Key's addiction to the cartel's chocolate, playing that off as drug addiction, basically. Like, there's a lot of like subtext to Wonka that is just that. Like, there's nothing extra to it. You don't have to worry about it. Like I said, I liked Timmy as Wonka, despite it feeling very much like a new version of the character entirely. There's some fun new songs. I think the Scrub Scrub song probably is the most earwormy of them all, which is what we get early on. There's a few choice moments where you hear a familiar Wonka song, Chocolate Factory song. Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa. Underused, honestly. Hugh Grant's amazing as the Oompa Loompa. It's like a bit of mocap work. Really funny, for sure. I think if they make a sequel, and I think they will make a sequel, given how big a hit this movie has been, it's already over 100 million, under 150 million worldwide after 2 weekends in abroad, 1 weekend domestic. Gonna kill it through the holidays. They'll make a sequel, and when they do make a sequel, there will be more Hugh Grant, who famously had a big role in Paddington 2. And I liked Wonka's like crew down at the hotel. Of course, quickly finding himself under bad luck, taken advantage of by Olivia Colman's character, Mrs. Scrubbit, and other people in his, like him, kind of fucked into an indentured servitude quickly. Again, there's some themes in the movie. You have Jim Carter, you have Natasha Rothwell, you have Rocky Thakrar. Like, I like all of them. I think they're all pretty nice in the movie, kind of playing off Timmy for the most part. You also have young Calla Lane, and I believe her first role as this orphan girl character, Noodle. And she's effectively the co-lead, or second lead of the movie. And she just kind of has to like play off Willy Wonka and kind of like dictate the themes around the movie. And actually, it works pretty good. She has to be given some like emotional stuff at the end. I think it's like effective as like emotional beats, even if the movie kind of like quickly like ties things together like that. Ultimately, I didn't mind. I really like the Chocolate Cartel as well. You have Patterson Joseph, Matt Lucas, famously from Great British Bake Off and other stuff, and Matthew Banton. They play these three very obviously nefarious, in cahoots, chocolate businessmen who want to keep Willy Wonka's really good, that they acknowledge, chocolate off the market for their own sake. And I think their villainy is pretty fun. Matt Lucas like really obviously explaining their evil deeds and stuff is good. All their like secret meetings with Keegan-Michael Key's police chief character, I really enjoyed. They have a kind of like a showboat, like show and dance scene where they have to convince Key to take their bribe and do what they want. And I think that was like really funny, like really good, like theater singing. And Key himself, I think, is pretty amusing as the corrupt police chief, and like he starts putting on a fat suit and gets like ridiculously fat overall. Is it a bit fat phobic? Maybe. I thought it was really funny stuff though, because he's obviously being played for a laugh as this kind of like pathetic person who also is very corrupt. So I thought it was like really great. Yeah, like it's just kind of a nice movie. It's fun. It's definitely a musical, and the marketing had really steered away from that. But it's been interesting to think about that because historically, audiences don't like musicals. Musicals are not box office bangers, and we had a lot of musicals kind of flop lately, like In the Heights and Dear Evan Hansen, for example. West Side Story as well, the remake. But Wonka, by hiding the fact that it's actually a musical and waiting for all that good word of mouth and good audience reception, not to mention good reviews, now people don't care that it's a musical because people are telling them it's good. It's kind of an interesting strategy that in the lead up to this, I was skeptical of, because like, oh, they're hiding that it's a musical. They're hiding Timmy singing. It must be bad. But no, it actually seems to have worked out okay. So yeah, I mean, Wonka, it's definitely a kids movie first, but it's just broadly enjoyable and like nice and makes you feel good. And it's hard to ask for more from something like this. Especially something like this, again, that I didn't think had much of a reason to exist. People weren't clamoring for it, but I'm really happy that it exceeded expectations. I think Chalamet is legitimately good in the movie, in the role. I think his best moments in the movie, I think the best overall like scene in the movie is probably this protracted zoo set piece where Willy and Noodle go to the zoo to milk a giraffe, and you find out why when you watch the movie. That's actually like really great. Some of the best singing. Like, Timmy's good. And do I want him to do more interesting work? Yes. That being said, this will raise his profile even more, and now perhaps he will have the ability to work with more unpopular, you could say, auteurist directors and not have to worry about things too much because he's got the Dune bag. He's got the Wonka bag now, too. And then he can do the movies for him moving forward. We'll see. But yeah, shout out Wonka. Exceed expectations, and I'm happy it's going to be a hit. WB definitely needs one at the box office after the tough year they've had with the DC films this year. Honestly, I think it's probably likely that Wonka will outgross Aquaman 2. Speaking of DC movies or WB movies, which is kind of hilarious to think about, but just speaks to the nadir that we are in with superhero movies right now. Nonetheless, let me know how you thought, what you thought of Wonka, what you thought of Chalamet's performance, what you want from Timmy moving forward, And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.